Then it went to Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson, now George Washington. In San Francisco, they're taking the name of George Washington off schools. Can you believe it? We're not going to let this stuff go on. The hardest thing I had to do as president was signing letters to the families of soldiers who were killed in the Middle East. Often I called the parents, very often. Sometimes I went to Dover Air Force Base. That's where the bodies of the soldiers would come in, and I'd see them bringing a young man, young woman in a coffin, and I'd be with the parents. And I've told this story a couple of times. The parents would sometimes be unbelievable. You would almost not understand. It was like, "Sir, it's so great to meet you." And they'd always tell stories about their child. "Sir, my son could throw a football so long. He was a quarterback in high school. He was a quarterback in college. Sir, I think he could have been in the NFL. He was really good. He was so great." And we're waiting for the plane to come in. And sometimes they'd be talking about their daughter. Lots of daughters were killed coming out of the Middle East. "My daughter was so beautiful, sir. She was so incredible. She was the greatest." And I'd say to the general and the colonel that ran Dover, the great people, by the way, we have great generals. We have great generals. The ones you see on television are not the ones that are great. We have great generals and we have great leaders and a great military that I rebuilt. I rebuilt it. It was exhausting. But I'd say to the general and the colonel that ran Dover, and they saw the bodies coming in many days of the week, I'd say, "General, it's amazing. The parents seem so fine. They can handle it." "No, they can't, sir." I said, "No, I just spent a half an hour talking to them. They're okay. I mean, they understand what happened. They're okay." "No, they're not, sir. When that plane pulls up, sir, that big, unbelievable, powerful, just like you saw 3 days ago with the bodies dropping off the sides, how desperate are people to leave when you're hanging, clinging to a plane that goes up thousands of feet and you eventually have to let go? How desperate is that? How sad and how desperate." But when that cargo plane pulled up and that door opened, the general said, "Sir, when that door opens and you had the most beautiful young people carrying a coffin or a number of coffins off of the plane, sir, when that happens, you'll see the parents are not okay." So I was talking to people that seemed to be fine. I was amazed at their strength. And 10 minutes later, I watched that same mother and that same father screaming, running to the coffin as it was being taken off, breaking security lines. You couldn't stop them. I've never seen anything like it. And for what? And for what? And then you have a man who just retreats and gives up. And it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to our country. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to everybody. The most incredible people. But that was the saddest thing, seeing that. Dover, you go to Dover. You go also to Walter Reed Medical Center, incredible doctors. I will tell you this, most incredible doctors. And you see the kind of horrific injuries, and you see the parents, the wife, the husband standing and looking over the body of somebody that was just absolutely shattered. In some cases, no legs. In one case, I'll never forget, no legs, no arm, and then the other arm a half, and said to me, "Sir, I got lucky. I was able to save a half an arm." And I'm looking and I'm saying, we can never let this happen again. It was a terrible, terrible thing that happened. It was such a horrific mistake. But these people represent our nation. They're the greatest people our nation has ever had. Ever had.